Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ones Ready podcast. Trent here, solo again. I'm not going to tell you where the other guys are because I don't know. And honestly, I don't think most of us care. I'm just kidding. Jared, we love you. Before we get started, head over to onesready.com. Check out all the Attack stuff over there. We don't talk about Attack enough, I don't think, or at least we haven't in a minute. Maybe I just missed those podcasts. But I was thinking about it the other day, and head over to onesready.com. Check out the Attack gear that we use in the pipeline. They have all the gear that we use in the pipelines, and it's on onesready.com. The discount is already built in, and they have the rucks, they have the fins, they have the ropes, they have all the things that you need and more stuff that you probably want to train for the pipeline. One of the big things that we always talk about is the fins, right? The fins that we use, especially when you're in the open water, and the fins that we train with, the jet fins, they're kind of a beast. All right. And they're going to put a lot of pressure on your ankles that you probably haven't felt before. So especially getting something like that and training with that before you enter the pipeline is going to be a huge thing for you. Get used to that pressure, condition your ankles a little bit. And that way it's not a big deal when you find yourself using them in the pipeline. Another thing that you always need, but not necessarily for the pipeline, is Cardo Max. I love Cardo Max. I'm drinking Cardo Max right now out of my cup. It's an energy intensifier. And they also have the Hydro Max with great flavors. Hydro Max is like your hydration drink. It's got your electrolytes and a whole bunch of other good stuff in it. Our friend Sean owns the company, former Navy SEAL, which we don't hold it against him too much. He's kind of cool though. He's all right for a former Navy SEAL, but I love the product. It tastes good. It does what it says it's going to do, and it comes in little packets and it's liquid. So you pour in some water. It it blends in instantly. You don't have to do anything with it, and it tastes great, and it does what it says it's going to do. So head over to cardomax.com, use the code ONESREADY to get yourself a discount over there. And more important than the discount, as I've told you all before, is letting them know that you heard about it on the Ones Ready podcast. And that's how you support us. Also by liking, subscribing, check out our membership stuff. The members only episodes are getting a little wild. It's a good time. It's a good time to be able to go on a members only episode and be able to say whatever you want. I don't think today is going to be a members only, but we're gonna talk about some shenanigans. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, and you've liked and subscribed and done all the things, I was perusing the Facebook the other day and saw some things that I think we might want to talk about. I'm going to share my screen here real quick and show y'all exactly what I'm talking about. We're going to walk through this kind of slowly, and I'm going to share my opinions. And as you guys know me, I'm going to try to look at things as objectively as possible and see what the truth is, what I think, and all these other things, and see both sides of the story. But also keep in mind, I'm a 40-year-old something dude, retired E8. I spent a little over 20 years in the Air Force. And so just like always, my perspective is I'm going to be, subject to my experiences as much as anybody else, a slave to my experiences just like anybody else. But I'm going to try to be as objective as possible. But I saw this post over there on the Air Force Airman NCO Senior NCO page, which there's a lot of goodness that comes out of this page. But every once in a while, and I know I have to believe that they do this on purpose, where some of the stuff that they get in their inbox, they just throw it out there. And the whole point of it is to, get clicks and to start conversations and keep people going, like fuel the rage machine. And I try to be above the rage machine as much as possible. But every once in a while, it can be a good time. It's a good time to jump in there and get a little bit fired up about certain things. And I saw this post and I was like, what in the ever living crap is this? This is, we're keeping it PG because we're not doing members only today. So that's why I'm using my nice words. But if you're only listening, I'll read it to you real quick. We're going to start at the top, and then we're going to kind of walk through some of the points. So the overview is this person's like, I had a great career, but I tell people not to join because of these reasons. And it's a little ridiculous taken as a whole, right? And so here it is from the inbox. The Air Force has been good to me. I made staff sergeant first time, tech second time, master first time. So that's good. Apparently this person is pretty good at their job, right? And they test well, at least. All right, they made master first time without going out of my way to do so. In parentheses, they say 1 volunteer a year, never holding a chair on any council, etc. So they're not doing a whole bunch of extra stuff, which, as I read this, I'm all for it. Especially when I was in, the conventional Air Force. Man, I hated this stuff, and that's what I would do. I'd volunteer for one thing. I don't want to sit on boards or committees or any of that other crap. I want to do my job. I want to be good at my job. and I want my work to be enough. And you know, what I want doesn't really matter all the time when it comes to promotions, but I was willing to do just enough to keep the bosses off my back. All right. I was able to first term airman retrain. I got an approved base of preference, save 4 deployments, 3. Apparently, they have 3 deployments. I have always worked 8 to 9 hour shifts. About 95% of them were on day shift. Again, life has been pretty easy for the most part. Okay, so you're a mass sergeant. You have 3 deployments. You made rank first or second time every time. You were able to as a first term airman, retrain into a job that you wanted more than they did the original job that you got, and you got a base of preference. All right, so for everybody that knows, like, you don't always get a base of preference, you know, especially in our community, in the special warfare community. There's so few of us, depending on the career field, that getting a base of preference when it comes down to the math of how many of every single rank and skill set that we need at every single base. It doesn't always work out that you get to go where you know, you want to go, even if you take a, you know, like if you take an ATC assignment, you know, that not everyone wants to do. We would like to give you whatever base you want after taking that assignment, you know, but it's not always possible. So this person got a base of preference, which is pretty rad. So I read the first part of it and I'm like, man, like, you have had an amazing career, you know, like, obviously the only working 8 to 9 hour shifts, and on day shifts, like, that's whatever. I don't know if you feel good about it. They didn't say anything about really enjoying their job. They just said that it's been pretty easy. So they don't say anything about why they joined the Air Force. They don't say anything about, you know, any of the schooling that they've got done, or any of the skill sets that they've picked up, or any of the friends that they've made, or the places that they've seen. They didn't talk about their deployments at all. So I guess on your deployments you work a little bit more, which is you know, what you're supposed to do, right? Like, it's always wild to me when, I mean, I was on a deployment one time. There's a side note where I was talking to somebody in Merc chat, and they were complaining about, like, only getting 1 day off a week, and I was like, bro, like, I get 0 days off, and I'm a one deep shop, because I was doing support for some folks at the time, and they're like, yeah, we work 8 hour shifts and only get 1 day off per week. And I was like, that doesn't sound like a deployment to me. Like, when I come home from deployments, typically I'm pretty burned out, and I need a little bit of time off to get myself going again. Anyway, so I'm hearing all this stuff. It sounds awesome, right? Like, you would think that this person would be like a recruiting machine. Like, hey man, like, I went in, and I know that it's not everybody having like the best experience ever, but you would think that they'd be like, hey, it worked out for me. You know, I basically got everything I wanted. You know, I made rank quick. I got to retrain. But here in the next paragraph, they said, yet I tell every potential recruit that asks my opinion, don't enlist. Why would you want to voluntarily do the following? Okay, so I don't understand. Here's my theory. My theory is this person has had a very good career. They get what they want. You know, that they don't have to work that hard, which is probably one of the reasons why they had time to think the way that they do about these things. But there's a certain, I guess, credibility that comes along with the victim vet mentality, the victim military crowd, right? Like, we're all victims of the military. Like, we all volunteered for this. Like, this person obviously, you know, they made master sergeant, so they're more than one enlistment in. They're at least on their second enlistment, at least, right? They're a senior NCO. They've had a really good career. So I guess if you don't have anything to complain about, if you're not, you know, somehow you don't have like a lot of ammo to say that I'm somehow victimized by this thing that I volunteered for, that I keep doing, I'm going to find a way to complain about it anyway, based on what I've heard other people say, which is wild, because, like, this person, it doesn't look like has been hosed ever in their career, right? Like, they probably put some work into retraining. It's not the easiest process in the world to retrain. There's a whole bunch of paperwork and all that other stuff. Like, so, like, I don't understand. Like, they seem fairly motivated. Everything worked out for them, but they still want to. I guess they look with envy over at the people that have horrible stories that get to tell people about how, you know, awful the military was for them. You know, how awful their experience was, how they got hosed by their chain of command and all these other people. And it's not like I'm more like this person. I had a pretty blessed career. I only had a few little hiccups, over 20 years where things were not pretty awesome. You know what I mean? Like, the job was hard at certain times and family life. Once you start mixing all those things together, there's ups and downs. But all in all, like, one of the reasons I like to come on the podcast and do these things is like I'm an example of someone that probably got more out of the military than I should have. Like, things worked out. Things worked out for me, typically, and part of that is attitude, and part of that is luck, right? So, like, I'm a lucky person, but also typically I'm not going to get that wrapped up in the negativity when things are not going perfectly. Okay, but let's get into this. Okay, so, like, I tell a potential recruit to ask my opinion, don't enlist, and here are the reasons, and let's go through the reasons. And so I'll have to pull up the second half of this in a little bit because I'm not smart enough to put it onto one screenshot and to get it over here. So anyway, number one, put your next 4 to 6 years in the hands of chance in regards to your job. You put down up to 8 jobs plus aptitude area. Okay, so not everybody comes in open general. I'm not even sure that we still have open general stuff. We might. I don't know. But you can 100%, I guarantee it. You can sign up for a specific job. Like that's recruiters, their whole goal is to fill specific jobs for specific career fields and get people that are qualified for those jobs into those jobs. Now, there's probably still some like general stuff. I don't know about open general and all that other stuff. And we have, and on the special warfare side right now, we still have SWOE, SWOE V, and which is the open enlistment coming in for the 4 career fields, right? TAC-P, SR, PJ, and combat control. And you get one of those coming out the door. You get put into one of those. But also, we also have the guaranteed jobs right now. So if you want to be TAC-P, you can sign up to be a TAC-P. If you want to be a pararescue guy, you can be a pararescue guy. In fact, I got a text message or a DM this morning from a guy that said, "Hey, I signed up for pararescue. There's not any more SWOE V slots. I'd rather come into SWOE V because I want to open up my options a little bit." And so we're working that problem with the people that are still active duty right now to try to help this person out so that when they show up, after basic training, if they still want to, we can get them, swapped out with a SWOE V slot or whatever and talk to some people to make that happen. So you can absolutely sign up for a specific job if you want to and not put it up to chance. But either way, like, you're joining the Air Force. So like, this person took like their personal experience, right? This is a very, individual centric take. And it seems to me like this person is very there's big narcissism vibes coming from this for me. Everything went well for me, but you put your next 4 to 6 years in the hands of chance in regards to your job. So this person apparently came in like some kind of like open, like put 8 jobs down for the thing, or they listened to the recruiter and put 8 jobs down instead of picking a particular job. And it sounds like the first job that they got, they weren't too psyched about, right? Even though they were only working 8 to 9 hour shifts and almost all of them on day shift. So it doesn't sound like it was that bad regardless. And then they still were able to retrain. And so their number one is absolutely nonsense. It's 100% garbage. And that there are a lot of people out there that do just need to get out of their situation. You know what I mean? And like, you're telling everybody not to enlist. Man, like, if Mass aren't, I don't know if you're male, female, whatever. If you came from like a nice middle class family, that's fine, and you didn't need to enlist, like, that's awesome. But I know a lot of people that just kind of jump into the Air Force or into the military as fast as they can, and are willing to take any job that they can to get out of their current situation. So for you to be like, hey, like, I don't think you should enlist in the military and put it out in this open forum like this, just shows your ignorance to the situation of all the other people in the country, right? To a lot of other people. And I'm not saying that there aren't, wealthy kids or rich kids or trust fund kids that don't end up enlisting in the Air Force for one reason or another. And it's always wild to hear their stories too. But man, like, there's a lot of people that the Air Force, especially getting into the Air Force, which is not an easy thing to do, is like the dream. Like, it sets them up for success, and they're gonna learn a bunch of skill sets. They're gonna learn discipline. They get to wear the uniform. They get paid. Gets them out of the hometown that they're coming from, wherever that is, and the situation that they were in, and allows them to kind of, with a whole lot of effort, kind of rise among the steps, move up the steps of the American dream, and it's amazing. So hold on just one second. Every single time I do a solo, I have to sneeze. I don't know what it is, but it is what it is. Anyway, yeah, so that first one is nonsense, and just because it was maybe your personal situation doesn't mean that it's the only situation. So I get that you like to think about yourself, and apparently you think you're a very important person, Mass Aren't, and you want to go out there and somehow be part of the victim vet community and tell people not to apply because there are pros and cons to joining the Air Force. Yeah, no kidding. There are pros and cons. There's pros and cons to everything. There are pros and cons to winning the lottery. Like, it's insane to think that you're going to make this post about how great your career was and how easy it's been for you, and then to pretend that the cons outweigh the pros no matter what, and to tell every single person that they shouldn't enlist. Like, if I met you, I would show you a level of disrespect that you're probably not accustomed to. All right, number 2. Let's move on. Maybe we'll get some positivity out of this. I don't know. Number 2, have next to no say on where you live. Gasp. I inserted the gasp. Regardless of family situation, parent terminally ill, too bad. AFPC, which is or they put APFC, but it's AFPC, the Air Force Personnel Center, will F you, and you'll stay put. This is categorically untrue. There is an entire program out there to help people out to get, if we can, right? So, like, you're still in the military. I don't know. Maybe they're confused about this. Mass Sergeant, you're in the military, right? And you signed a commitment more than once. If you're a Mass Sergeant, multiple times you signed and you said you were willing to live by these rules and live this disciplined life and make sacrifices to do it, right? But when the Air Force can, they will try to get you as close to terminally ill parents as possible. Like, there's paperwork that has to be done. There are things that have to happen to make it happen. And I'm not saying that no one has ever been denied, this PCS to be close to a family member, because at the end of the day, the hard truth is it is the needs of the Air Force come above your personal needs, especially for anybody that's not, your child or your spouse in the military. That's like kind of a different story when it comes to that, because we have the EFMP program as well for your exceptional family members. If they have diseases or situations that require certain medical facilities, we'll make sure that we PCS those families to places where they can get the care that they need. That program is also not perfect, but there is a program in place to make sure that you can get to, if feasible, right, within the bounds of us still accomplishing the mission that we're set forth to do as the United States Air Force. There's that program to get you close to these family members if possible. So just to put this out there and to be like, to make it so black and white and say AFPC just doesn't care about you, that's not true. And this is a straight up lie. So, like, maybe you heard a terrible story about one time that this didn't work out, or multiple times it didn't work out, but I guarantee you that somebody tried. If you put in the paperwork the right way, if your chain of command, helped you get the message all the way up through your career field managers up to AFPC, and maybe it was just impossible, and that happens too. I'm not saying that the Air Force is some sunshine and rainbows organization where you're going to get to do everything that you want to do, that it's going to make sense 100% of the time, and if something bad happens, that they're going to be able to send you back. But also, like, in my experience, I was TDY for a school when my grandmother died, and my commander back in South Carolina, they don't have to, send me home because my grandmother died, but they pulled me out of the schoolhouse. I went back to South Carolina, and they sent me home to go to her funeral, because they thought it was important. So for every situation, like that where things go poorly, there are probably, I would guess, a lot more situations where things go correctly. All right, and yes, there is there's a chance that it's not going to go the way that you wanted to go, but you are in the Air Force, and so it is what it is. All right, so that's end of story time for that one. Let me share this next one real quick. The second half of this, so we can talk about it. All right, number 3, and wait, is that the wrong one? Nope, that's the right one. All right, and this one, number 3, is wild to me. If this is like, I'm not saying it's not important, but geez. Okay, whatever. We'll just read it. Weed? Question mark. Weed? Question mark. Are we talking about marijuana? Are you not sure what you're talking about, Mass Arm? It's legal in half the country recreationally. Okay, maybe. I don't know. I don't care. 47 states allow medical, and then in parentheses they say anxiety. Anyone? Okay, but not for you. Heck, or whatever. You could go to prison in the Air Force. Yeah, no kidding. To me, this is like a one position voter, right? Like, they've told some untruths about the situation in the Air Force after telling you that they had the greatest career possible, and then they're gonna throw something like this, like I guess weed was important to them. Like, hey, Mass Sergeant, if you really want to smoke weed, then get out. You obviously re-enlisted, you retrained, and now you're a master sergeant. You were a senior NCO, and I guess you're walking around just wishing that you could smoke weed every single day. Grow up. Like, if weed is that important to you, you wouldn't be in the military. And if you think it's that important to everybody else, like, there are sacrifices that you're going to have to make. You know what? You also can't do heroin. You also can't get drunk and drive. That's also illegal. If you're on flying status, you can't drink within 8 or 12 hours of you flying. There's a whole bunch of rules. But to say that it's legal in half the country, it's decriminalized. I guess it's legal in some of these states, or in a bunch of these states, but you could go to prison in the Air Force. Yeah, because federally, and we work for the federal government, it's still illegal. Now, do I agree with it? It doesn't matter if I agree with it or not, really. And so I'll hit the other side of this. I'm a fairly libertarian type person. That's the best way to describe it, so people understand what my stance is. And I don't think that for your average everyday American citizen, the government should have really any say about what you put into your body, as long as you're not hurting anybody else, right? I'm very laissez-faire about how I think people should be able to live their lives. But not smoking weed for 4 to 20 years, I'll tell you, is just not that difficult. It wasn't that difficult for me. And if that's what you're fixated on, then you're obviously focusing on the wrong things. Like, do you think that it's going to solve all your problems? And the anxiety thing, like, how much anxiety do you have there, Mass Arndt? Your career has gone fantastic by your own admission. Like, you have nothing to worry about. Like, your career has been amazing. What are you so anxious about that you need weed and nothing else? Like, the Air Force offers all kinds of stuff. There's the mental health stuff, which it's the Air Force and it's the military, so everything is not perfect, right? Like, sometimes it's very, very difficult to get into mental health. Sometimes it's very difficult to get the help that you need, but you're probably going to be surrounded by some pretty rad people. You're going to have a first sergeant, and you're going to have a chaplain that you can go talk to. You're going to have friends that you can talk to. Like, if weed is the one thing keeping you from being a happy person, then you need to get out or not join. You're right. Like, but it's such a silly argument. Like, weed is the most important thing in the world. Yeah, I guess that's a big reason to not join, is you can't smoke weed. Just like if you work at a bunch of other places that drug test, you're not allowed to smoke weed or do all these other things. Like, but I guess this person, in their infinite wisdom and with all of their focus being on themselves and trying so hard to get into some kind of victim status from their military service, this is the one of the things that they're gonna jump on and and really go after. So I'm getting disenchanted with this person pretty quick. The last one, number 4. This is where they go hard. They actually drop a big F-bomb in this one, so I will filter it for you. The Uniform Code of Military Justice, the UCMJ. You will give up, in parentheses, under the guise of adhering to additional, parenthesis, which doesn't make any sense to me. Someone explain that to me. Anyway, you will give up fundamental rights you have as an American citizen. Freedom of speech. Nah, you're a service member, so get that when a superior thinks it's appropriate. Yeah, so your freedom of speech is a little bit different under the UCMJ. You can't speak for the military in certain instances. You're not, especially as an officer. It also applies to enlisted folks, but you can't just go on there and say like, as a member of the military, you're not supposed to go around just like cussing out the current president of the United States, or saying really bad things about them. You can say that you disagree with things, like there's nothing wrong with that, and you can, and I have, in a very public forum with my face and my name attached to it, and everybody knows that I was active duty for 4 years on this podcast talking about stuff and sharing my opinions. And guess what? I didn't go to jail. And there were people that had some issues with it, but nothing ever came of it because I'm not pretending to be the representative of the United States Air Force. I'm not wearing my uniform on the podcast and saying, hey, this is how the Air Force views this presidential candidate. I'm not coming on here, especially when I was active duty, and saying like, let's go Brandon. I wasn't saying that stuff. And I've never said that stuff. I was in Wisconsin one time when, what was it? It was the Trump Obama election or one of them. Anyway, like some lady at the airport she found out that I was military, and she kept trying to get me to say something, bad about a president or positive about a presidential candidate or something. And I'm just not going to engage with that. Like it's not the right place. It's not the right time. As a member of the military, it's not my job to tell you what I think. Now, do I think, yeah, I can still go vote. I can still do all those other things. But yeah, you're going to make a sacrifice, and you're got to watch what you say a little bit. You know what I mean? And you can delve into the UCMJ and see exactly what it says. And you can look at the case law and see exactly what it says. And there are pros and cons, right? Like my right to not self-incriminate, and this is important for you folks that are in the military or thinking about joining the military. Like you do not have to self-incriminate, right? And if your commander drives you down to the OSI office, it doesn't mean that you can't leave. You don't have to say anything to them. Like they're how much proof they have to convict you of something in the military, as long as you keep your mouth shut, is incredible. So for the most part, people get in trouble because they open up their mouths and they start confessing to things that they really shouldn't confess to. And so my advice to all my folks always was just keep your mouth shut. Absolutely don't say anything. And as an NCO, if one of my airmen comes to me and they start to confess something, that is inadmissible if I don't read them their rights, if I don't tell them that they're allowed to stay silent, if they're about to confess a crime to me or something like that. So yeah, the UCMJ isn't perfect for everybody, and your freedom of speech, there are like certain kind of limits on it, and you can't speak for the military in a political sense. And so yeah, that's not the best thing, I guess. But if your superior thinks it's appropriate, your superior really has nothing to do with it. And if they try to get in your way of saying what you're allowed to say, then you're going to have, with a little bit of effort, you're going to have some recourse. All right. The next one gets me good. Freedom of religion. Kind of. I'm not allowed to go to church where I want to go to church. Is that what you're telling me there, Master? Unless your beard. Okay, so this person immediately jumps to religion and beard. I don't know if a beard is actually a requirement for very many religions. And if it is, I guarantee you that there have been people in the past of that religious persuasion in the military that shaved their beard. Like we have a long history of people conforming to the military standards. And I get that now it's very cool to try to buck the system and to be like, well, my beard is like part of my religion, or my long hair and my feather is part of my heritage and all this other stuff. And like the beauty of the military is not in the individuality, especially in the beginning. The beauty of it is in the conformity in the beginning, and then the people moving out into their jobs and then doing what they can and using their talents and expertise to get the mission accomplished. But in the beginning, you are expected to conform. Like that's the whole point of it. We put on a uniform with the flag on it, and it says United States Air Force on it in our case, and it says your last name. Um, but you are an airman above all things at that point. You're a citizen of the United States, but you are also an airman, and you're expected to conform. So I don't know why everybody thinks that the military should be making exceptions for individuals when traditionally that has not been the case. Um, so, and I love how you try to tie the beard comment into religion. Like how many times is that a big issue? And that's not true as well, because there are people that have beards all over the military now because of their religion. You got to do the paperwork, you know. And but yeah, your commander still has say over it. So kind of, unless your beard, of course, beard is the only thing that equates to religion here in this instance. Interferes with the antiquated view of professionalism that some 4-star F decides will cause the downfall of the profession of arms. Yeah. So if you enlist, you do have to follow orders, certain orders from especially 4-star generals. If they give you a direct order, you're going to shave that beard, and none of this is a surprise to you if you can read your oath of enlistment that you took multiple times there, Master Sergeant. It's not a surprise. And so it's fun that you are trying so hard to jump on the bandwagon of victimization for veterans or for active duty folks that are in the military, even though you've had a very blessed career from what I can tell. So I could write an entire novel over the cons of signing the contract outweighing the pros, but I'll end it there. I would like to think that this Master Sergeant is just in that there are doldrums in your career. You know, I'm going to stop sharing this real quick. There are times in your career where things are just not good, right? And it seems like, you know, the military is not the most fun place to be. And things, you get tired of wearing your uniform every day. I'm not going to pretend like you don't. You know, well, I didn't really wear my uniform every day much of any of my career. But there are things that you get tired of. You get tired of, you know, just showing up to work all the time and doing the same thing over and over again. And you kind of feel stuck in where you're at. And I would like to think that this Master Sergeant is just having a bad year, you know? And that's why they're telling people to absolutely not enlist. But I'll tell you what, if this Master Sergeant actually took a step back and evaluated, you know, what, because they're so self-centered, let's talk about what have you gained through your military experience. What have you been allowed to do? You've deployed 3 times. You've seen part of the world. You got a base of preference. You got to go to some pretty cool places. Yeah, you don't get a lot of choice all the time about where you go, but there's always new experiences to be had, you know? And there's more education than you can throw a stick at. There's more people that you can meet that have unique experiences that you can learn from. There's almost endless possibilities if you're willing to do the work in the Air Force. But I'm just hoping that this narcissistic Master Sergeant is not actually trying to become a victim vet on their way out the door into retirement, and they're actually just having a bad year. That is what I hope, because at the end of the day, there are pros and cons to joining the military or the Air Force, right? It's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's not great all the time, but it's not bad all the time. And if you join having 0 life experience outside of the military, it's easy to think that life on the outside is somehow way, way better. And in some ways it is, and in some ways it isn't. So when you sign up and you take the oath of enlistment, my advice to everybody out there is just to jump into the deep end and embrace it. See what happens when you decide to fully embrace the traditions and the discipline and, you know, all those other things that come along with being a member of the military. You know, it can be a pretty radical time. You know, there's things I don't like about it, but most of the things I don't like about it is I don't like eating in my uniform off base. I don't like being off base in my uniform because I get very uncomfortable if people try to be nice to me because I'm wearing my uniform, because, you know, there was always more I could have been doing. You know, I always felt like I could have done more. And you know, I know a lot of people, and I interacted with some of the very best humans on the planet during my time in uniform. And I just don't think that I did the things that they did to deserve all the stuff that I got. So there it is. There's going to be pros and cons. I'm going to wrap this up right now. But when you see stuff like this on the internet, just understand that this is a human that has an agenda. They're probably having a bad year, and they're just trying to feel like they're part of something. And even though that they've had a great career, they just want to complain about something to probably join in on the crowd and get their post posted on the you know, Air Force Airman NCO Senior NCO page. Congratulations, you did it, and I'm here talking about it. So, man, Mass Sergeant, I hope that you have a great rest of your career, and I hope that you can retire and then look back with fondness upon, the experiences that you had and the people that you met, and the education that you got, whether it was formal or just through experiences that you had in the military, and be grateful for everything that you were able to do. Because there are a whole lot of people out there in our country that wish that they could join the Air Force, but they have situations that don't allow them to, and so it's kind of a smack in the face to them, spitting in their face to say, I had a great career, but I tell people not to join when there are so many people out there that wish that they could. So there you have it. Everybody out there, make sure you like and subscribe. Check out the website again, onesready.com, and we will catch y'all next time. Appreciate you listening. Bye.